Hello, hello, and welcome to Autumn Willow's Doll Nursery. My name's Miranda, and today we have with us little Effie Salone, and she is Wendy from Virginia Turner. Now, I think it's probably been 3 months since I've changed her, which is terrible, but so I was like, okay, we gotta do it. We gotta get her. She is next in line to get her clothes changed. Now, I had briefly mentioned in a past video about my story, kind of switching sides on a very controversial topic, and I mentioned that I could do a story time on that if anybody was interested, and we did have somebody who was interested in that story. So this is your trigger warning that we will be talking about a controversial topic and emotions may arise, but I would like to think of myself as someone who tries to bring peace between communities. Somebody who is willing to agree to disagree, and somebody who is also willing to say, you know, even though we differ on our views or opinions, we can still be friends. So that's the angle I would like to come at this from, and share some of the thoughts that I have had on authentic versus non-authentic dolls. And we have a very neutral doll with us today, and that was on purpose. She is not a reborn doll, and so she's quite a neutral doll in this story. I think regardless of which side of the track you're on this, she shouldn't trigger anybody anyway. So, I used to be authentic only. When I first started collecting reborn dolls. And I never really got riled up about it. I never engaged anybody in arguments or anything like that. I mostly just watched everybody else talking about it and engaging in different arguments from both perspectives. And that is, as an INFJ, that's kind of what I do anyway. I'm a people watcher, if you will. And so I just quietly sat back, had my own opinions, my own viewpoints, sat back and watched everybody else. And over the years, many different instances of, you could say, drama would arise, and, you know, there would be kind of an explosion in the community where people would be arguing about this or that, or something would get brought up, and I would just watch. I would watch people, and I do this, like I said, in all areas of life. I've even done this with politics, just kind of sitting back and watching both sides, watch how they interact with each other. I'm also the type of person that I don't just look at an argument from the perspective I agree with. I really like looking at all aspects of it. So I will educate myself on, you know, what does the opposing side, what's their view, what's their take, what are they saying about themselves. Again, I do that politically. I do that in a spiritual sense as well. I look at doctrines from different perspectives. I will listen to people who agree with, you know, the opposing side of what I believe. I will dig into, you know, because my ultimate goal in everything is, opinions aside, what is the closest I can get to truth? So digging into the facts from all perspectives, I think, is a great way to lead someone to the truth of a matter. And so I was doing the same thing on this topic. And at first glance, right, my first couple of years, I guess we should get to changing her, shouldn't we? The first couple of years, I was authentic only. I did collect other types of dolls, but no replicas. Okay. And I was just watching how people interacted with each other. And like I said, being a person that tries to bring peace, anytime somebody would come in a group and they would have just joined the group and they're all excited, but you know, they have a replica and they don't understand replica versus authentic, I would want to gently and nicely educate them, right? And let them know that very nicely, you know, you may not do well in this group, you may have trouble in this group, there are people that have very strong opinions, and then try to help them out. But I noticed that often before I could even get a message in, even if the post had just come up, very quickly I would say, wolves, you know, the wolves would come out and just eat this poor person alive who clearly just didn't know. And they would get met with such hate, such anger. And really all that's going to do is push that person into the opposite. You know, they're not going to like you very much. They're not going to like your side very much if you're just downright cruel and mean. You know? And that always frustrated me because it's like, you're not doing us any favors by just jumping out the gate and being cruel to people and jumping down their throats. I mean, we can gently and nicely educate folks. But that just kept happening and kept happening and kept happening, and to the point where I was getting very frustrated with my side. And it was very much clearly bullies, just downright mean bullies on this side. So, and I would notice that anybody that was for replicas, or even just maybe they didn't own a replica themselves, but they were like, you know, it's not my place to say what someone can and cannot buy. I never saw them reacting with hate towards the opposite side. You know, they were always kind of the underdogs in it. If somebody didn't know, they would try to educate them, and it was usually in a very gentle way and in a very, you know, seeking peace way. So I started to see that one side was very hostile and the other side was not. And that's when I started to question, like, am I on the right side of this? And being that I am someone who likes to look at it from all sides now, looking at things from, okay, let's see the other person's perspective. So then I started digging into that. And I was like, all right, where are these people that are okay with replicas? Where are they coming from? What's their side of the story? I see them having better behavior than the side that I'm on. And so now I'm really curious. And being that I am a spiritual person, and I'm sure I've mentioned that to y'all before. And I don't mean I'm just somebody who likes to study about God or that type of thing. No, very much coming at it from a relationship perspective. And I have been cultivating my relationship with Yeshua, or some would say Jesus, since I was very small. And I took the matter to him. And I asked him, I was like, okay, I'm seeing this whole big explosion of arguments, and I want your opinion on it. Like, where do you stand in all of this? Because it can seem very black and white at first. You know, somebody stole something, so that we have a thief. And so automatically, if we have a thief, then this side is the right side and this side is the wrong side. And often things are more complicated than that. So when I asked him about it, he told me that I needed to learn. I still had a lot to learn on the subject. And that things weren't as black and white as they were appearing. And so I started digging in. I started learning about international laws, copyright laws in China, just digging into a lot of legalese, you know. And it was very kind of a long research project to take on. There's a lot that goes into that, and different countries have different laws, and there's a lot to take into consideration. There are a lot of moving parts in these situations. So I'm digging into all this, reading a lot of things, watching a lot of videos on law, and I found that things were definitely not as black and white as I had originally thought it might be. So what do you think of this? I don't like that the white around her neck is showing, but I guess it just is what it is. I think she looks cute in this though, her little yellow pants with the white buttons here. Her onesie here says smile with me, and it's got this little giraffe. And then this is a vintage cardigan, which I think kind of ties the whole thing together. So I'm going to get her some socks. So as I'm researching, I'm seeing that not only, like, if I were to have a product and I want that product to be made somewhere else, then I not only have to have copyright, a copyright in the country that I'm in, but a copyright in whatever country is manufacturing my product, or even selling my product. So there's just a lot of moving parts to these things. And if in China you do not have a copyright in their country, it is very legal, the way their laws are set up, for them to replicate your product, and they have not broken the law. But if you have a copyright in their country as well, and someone tries to do that, they try to replicate your product, then you can take them to court and you can win. It's like, okay. And there's a lot more to it than that, and a lot more moving parts, but there are videos that you can search to go digging into all that if you want all the nitty-gritty details on it. But I saw where, yeah, things were not being talked about in our country accurately, with sculptors and things. Things were not being communicated accurately. So I was like, okay. Kept digging around for more information because, you know, I like to get it multiple sources, right? I'm not just looking at one source. Multiple sources. So different people, different opinions, digging into all of it. And then the legal documents, like trying to go over legal documents, that's very difficult. Especially for my brain to grasp. But I was giving it the old college try, just so I could be as accurate as I could. Now, I got some of these bags real quick at the thrift store. I think they were running a sale, and it was 25 cents, but ended up being 10 cents a bag with the sale. And I thought, so while I'm on camera, rattling these bags is quite annoying. So I thought, if I have more of these, I won't be making so much of a racket with you guys. So I'm changing over some of my stuff into these bags here. But okay, so I'm looking in and I'm seeing where, you know, things aren't as clear as I'd originally thought. And I had even heard of a case, and I couldn't verify this, so take this with a grain of salt, but supposedly there was a case where a sculptor was claiming that their product had been stolen by a Chinese company, and actually, according to their laws in their country, it had not, and they were able to sue her for defamation. Now, I couldn't verify that, but just take that for what you will. And maybe you know more about that than I do. But anywho, so I took this back to Yeshua, and I was talking with him about it. And he reminded me of a verse. And let me pull that up for you. Give me Google this real quick. I'm really good at remembering the verse, but not the address. So let me see here. This might be the verse. Okay, so yes, this is it. We're looking at Matthew, chapter 7, and verse 1. And I'm going to pull this up on Bible Hub. I really like Bible Hub. If any of you like to do Bible studies, Bible Hub is fantastic. It's got a lexicon where you can go back to the original language. It's really cool. Alright, I'm going to look at this. I think I'm liking the Amplified here, so let's pull that up in the Amplified. Alright. Do not judge and criticize and condemn others unfairly with an attitude of self-righteous superiority, as though assuming the office of a judge, so that you will not be judged unfairly. I'll pull up the full chapter here. We're not going to read the full chapter. I just want to pull up. I want to read a little bit more of this verse. Oh, okay, so that you will not be judged unfairly. For as you judge others, so you will also be judged in accordance with your standard of measure used to pass judgment. So if you're holding somebody else to a judgment of what they buy, if you're judging them from buying from a company or a person that has done something you view as wrong, then you yourself will be judged by that same standard. And Yeshua spoke to me. He said, if you do not want to be found judging someone by that standard, because you'll be judged by that standard. And he instantly reminded me of a friend of ours who is a little bit famous out there. You can find him all over YouTube. And that is Nathan Reynolds. And I will warn you, don't go digging into his story if you are of the faint heart. His story is very traumatic, very gory. He was involved in satanic ritual abuse. And there's many, many different interviews. We have also interviewed him. But he comes from the family that owns Reynolds Wrap, okay? And y'all instantly reminded me of that. There are so many, if you have ever gone down this rabbit hole, friends, there are so many companies, corporations that are involved in horrific child abuse, child molestation, rape, you name it. Awful, awful stuff. And this isn't conspiracy. I'm talking about things that have actually been proven. And, you know, we're paying for that. If you're buying their products, you're paying to fuel that system. And do you want to be judged according to that? Do you want to be held to that standard? And there are things done in the dark that we don't even know. You may think that this corporation you're supporting is perfectly fine, but they're not. And do you want to be held according to that same standard? Do you want to be judged for being a participant in their activities? So, I certainly do not want to be held to that standard. So, I am not going to judge you for the corporations or the companies that you are buying from, and who you may be supporting. I'm not even going there. That like totally opened my mind right there, what Yeshua spoke to me. So no, I am not going to judge you for where you buy or what you... But here's the thing that I also find very interesting. I've been in many different reborn doll groups, and let me tell you, the same people that will condemn you to hell for buying a replica doll are so quick to support and go buy replica strollers of expensive, $2,000 strollers, and they'll go on Temu and buy the replica. They're totally fine with that. They're totally fine with going and buying that replica car seat. And it's like, wait a minute. And what else in their lives are they buying that is a ripoff of another product? Whether that is a Birkin purse that Walmart was selling at one point. I don't know if they still are, but the Birkin purse, which is clearly a ripoff of a purse that can cost you upwards of $80,000 to $100,000 if you buy the authentic. And shoes. There's replica shoes. I think there's plenty of replicas of Jimmy Choo shoes. So it's okay to buy a stolen product from one company, but don't you dare buy this replica doll or you're going to hell. And it's like this double standard that I cannot wrap my mind around here. The same people that say you cannot have the replica doll have the replica stroller, and it's like, okay, so it's only stealing if it's not from a bigger corporation? Because a person designed that product. Inside of that corporation, you're just wanting to see the sign. But inside that corporation is a person or a small team of people who designed a product. And they're very proud of that product. And that product means a lot to them. And then a China company comes and replicates it. So are their feelings not valid? I mean, if that's the track we're going to go down, it's only stealing if it's according to certain terms. So none of that ever made sense to me. It just didn't. I don't understand the logic behind all of that. And that really frustrates me because I still see that in certain groups where people are doing that. And it's total hypocrisy. If you're going to claim thievery, but only in this one thing. But the exact same thing can be happening over here, but it's not thievery. And it's like, dude, let's be consistent. So, that's a whole rabbit trail and a rant. But, for real. Let's just be realistic. And, there is a collector out there who does not buy unauthentic at all. And I applaud her in that, because if she is against the replica dolls, then it makes sense that she would be against everything else replicated. At least she's not being, a hypocrite about it, right? Yes, I would say she probably isn't informed about Chinese law or, international law in general. And I don't know if that would, even if she knew, I don't know if that would change her stance or not. But at least she's being consistent, right? So anyway, this is just kind of some of my thoughts on it. So once I had really dug into the matter, and looked at the actual laws, and there are, and I'm so proud of them, there are sculptors who are going the extra mile. They're getting their copyright in the other countries where their dolls are being produced or sold. And they are making, what is it? They've got some other security features on the doll that keep them from being replicated. And I absolutely applaud that, because what I would really like to see happen, and maybe you don't hold the same opinion, that's perfectly fine. What I would really like to see is for the Chinese companies or whoever's manufacturing the cheaper dolls, come up with your own sculpts. Because I am sure there are wonderful artists and sculptors in China who could come up with their own sculpts, and they'd be amazing, right? And they could pay that sculptor, for their work, and they could make affordable dolls for everybody, and there would be no controversy around it, right? That would be the ultimate goal for me. Sculptors, protect your work, like some of the sculptors are doing now. Get your copyrights, do what you gotta do, and then China will be forced to come up with their own. I think that would just be fabulous, fantastic, fabulous, fanabulous, if you want to say. I love that idea. So this has just been so during this process of me researching and talking to Yeshua about it and learning all this stuff, I totally had peace about the replicas at this point. And there was a live done on YouTube by two creators. Y'all will know who they are. I don't even have to name them. Y'all know who they are. And the things that came out of their mouths was just absolutely horrendous. And at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna actually buy a replica. Just to spite them. And instantly when I thought that, Yeshua said, is that the right heart? Is that the right motive for buying a replica? To spite somebody? Oh, when I instantly, instant conviction. And I was like, absolutely not. That was completely wrong. That was a wrong heart motive. I'm sorry. I'm not going to buy a replica from that standpoint. And so I didn't. I was okay with replicas, but I wasn't buying one right then and there. And, a couple months went by, and I saw somebody, and I can't remember who it was, had a replica Maddie. And I had always hated the Maddie sculpt. I did not like it at all at that point in time. But somebody had one of the replica Maddies, and they were comparing it to an authentic one. And it was actually different. It looked like it was a little bit bigger than the authentic. And it just struck me as cute. And I was like, you know what? I went over to, I think it was Amazon, and I was looking at the replica Maddies, and I was like, I kind of like that. And so I ordered one. I was no longer in spite mode. It was no longer coming from the wrong heart motive. And I bought her, and oh my gosh, when I say there was an instant bond with that doll. It was wonderful, and she came the day we were leaving for Sukkot. She cannot take a pacifier, by the way, and that's why I don't have a pacifier clip on her. But we do have a little bottle that we can... Her arms move a little bit. She does have a thing in her arms, but they don't move like... It's not a perfect... I can't make her close her arms there. but we'll put her little bottle there. And I love that doll. I did a little, I trimmed her hair. I ended up completely repainting her. But, you know, at first I just did a matte, trimmed her hair, you know, the basic things. And she was fabulous. But that's kind of my story, going from one side of the tracks to the other. And I'm sure this video, it's quite controversial for multiple reasons, not just the replica, but, you know, me also bringing up my spirituality and you know, that sort of thing. But my goal was not to trigger anybody or upset anybody. Like I said, I am perfectly fine to agree to disagree on things, and you do you collect how you want to collect. That's perfectly fine. I'm game for, you know, whatever you guys want to do, right? It's your life. You get to decide how you live it, you know? But my major thing is, regardless of which side you take, I don't think we should be bullying people. I don't think that... I've heard stories where there have been ladies in the community actually get bullied so much that they take their own lives. And that is just, well, let's just say I would not want to be in the position of somebody who bullied somebody that harshly, and meet my maker without having, you know, repented and dealt with that situation. But goodness gracious, life is hard enough without us being cruel to each other. And most of us that are in the doll hobby, you know, we're in this hobby for joy. We're in this hobby to have a good time, to de-stress, right? To relax and enjoy something. And so we don't need any kind of darkness coming in on it. But yes, Kinsley says that we're done with the video. She's whining. She said, I'm done with this. We gotta go do something else. So I'm gonna sign off. I genuinely love everybody on both sides of this argument. And all I can say is, you can have your opinion, your viewpoint, but let's be kind to each other, okay? All right, guys. I think that's all for now. We'll say goodbye to little Effie Salone, and I will see you again soon. Bye for now.